Joining us right now on the curvy couch. Suddenly, it's seating for 5. We've got Glenn Beck. This is his normal time when he would join us. And also joining us, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, let's actually start with you. And I know Glenn's going to want to talk about it. The whole question of whether or not this guy has been Mirandized. Because overnight, Eric Holder said investigators would seek intel from the suspect, which makes it sound like he's going to be interrogated before he's actually Mirandized.
Well, if he hasn't been Mirandized, and I know this will upset a lot of people, he certainly will be Mirandized as soon as he sets foot in federal court this morning.
But the big question is, will they spend enough time interrogating him before they did? Because that's what happened with the crotch bomber. They talked to him for 50 minutes, and then they go, okay, show's over.
Here's the tension between the two sides. There is the natural desire on the part of the public and the government to want to know more about him. Are there other plotters out there? Who sent you? Who dispatched you? Who paid for this? There's also the oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws, which say you've got to give him his Miranda warning the minute he's in custody and the minute you ask him a question. Where they give him the Miranda warning between the moment of incarceration and the time he sets foot in court this morning is something we may never know.
How's your blood pressure on that?
Actually good. He's a citizen of the United States. So I say we uphold the laws and the Constitution on citizens.
But he's a threat to the country. That's different.
So are a lot of citizens of the country. If you're a citizen, you obey the law and follow the Constitution. He has all of the rights under the Constitution.
How many tried to blow up a city block in the last 48 hours?
We don't, we don't shred the Constitution when it's popular. We do the right thing.
If he knows information that could wipe out some of your friends and family, you don't want that?
Again, it's not a popular answer, but I don't think that we shred the Constitution.
And let's talk about how he
look. This is why we left them at the gate for a few minutes. I think we did everything we could. We left them at the gate. We let the plane come
See if
away.
anybody else got on.
Is there anybody else involved? Before we get him, let's get as much information as we possibly can.
So do you think we get all information? So your theory is, Glenn, that we get all information if we don't get in 48 hours or whatever?
He's a citizen of the United States. If he's not a citizen of the United States, I disagree with the judge. The crotch bomber. I'm still using, wet towels over here.
So if we had professional interrogators that could get more information out of him in the next 3 days, but if they read him his Miranda rights and he gets a lawyer, he shuts up, you are saying forget the intelligence. It's more important to give him his rights.
Right.
But you got to make a decision. You got to be practical.
The Constitution always must be the thing that we stand on.
See how I've influenced him?
No kidding.
It kills me.
But if things start blowing up downtown, how are you going to feel?
You don't shred the Constitution, ever. John Adams, we were just talking about John Adams. John Adams went and defended the British. He defended
What about Lincoln? Did he suspend habeas corpus?
Time of war.
What are we in?
Well, the Supreme Court nullified what Lincoln did, and it was the Supreme Court that he appointed.
Judge, let's go.
I think in a time of war it is different, Judge, but declare it.
Regarding the Mirandizing of an American citizen, which this guy is, there is a carve-out. There's a special exemption that if the authorities feel that there is an imminent threat, they could Mirandize him longer before, or rather, they could interrogate him longer than before they Mirandize.
Look, they can Mirandize him whenever they want, but they will not be able to use to prosecute him any information that he gives them prior to the Miranda warning, and their failure to Mirandize him in a timely manner will expose them to the consequences of having violated the law.
And, by the way, sometimes people still talk after they get their Miranda rights. I mean, it's not ideal, but sometimes
look at Najib Boulazazi. This guy provided us with tremendous information. We didn't have to go through the expense of a prosecution. When confronted with the possibility of the prosecution of his parents and life in prison for the rest of his life,
he sang
like a bird.
Let me just say this. The hairy back guy sang a lot lot
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed after Waterboard.
He sang a lot more.
All right, guys, sit right here. Join us right now from our WNYW Channel 5 New York affiliate, John Huddy. He's live at the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. John, later today, this guy, Faisal Shahzad, is going to be arraigned, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And U.S. officials say he's facing numerous charges. However, the specifics of those charges have not been made public. But you're right, he is expected to face a judge on those charges at some point today. Let's pan off. You could see kind of where we're at, set the scene a little bit. That is the U.S. courthouse here in Lower Manhattan. There is some security presence. We're expecting that presence obviously to be ratcheted up throughout the course of the morning into the afternoon. We're not sure exactly what time he is scheduled to appear in court. That's being kept confidential, but he is facing numerous charges. Now, we're learning a lot about this guy, Faisal Shahzad. We're hearing he's 30 years old. He's a naturalized U.S. citizen from Pakistan. He has addresses in both Bridgeport and Shelton, Connecticut, the most recent in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And he recently spent, and you guys probably already know this, but he recently spent 5 months in Pakistan, where apparently, according to some reports, he has a wife and possibly 2 children. Now, investigators believe he was behind the wheel of the gray Nissan that set in motion the bomb scare over the weekend. It was loaded with explosive materials. We're talking gas, propane tanks, a metal box that would have sent shrapnel flying in Times Square. It was parked in the middle of the theater district here in New York City, in Times Square. At Saturday night, it was beautiful weather. It was bustling with a lot of theater goers, a lot of tourists. It could have been absolutely devastating. We're not sure where Shahzad is being held at this hour, but again, he is expected here in federal court at some point today, according to U.S. officials, facing numerous charges. Guys?
All right, John Huddy reporting live from outside the courthouse. We thank you very much. Judge, what do you think they could charge this guy with?
You know, you'd like to charge him with an act of terrorism, but federal law defines terrorism as 2 or more acts of violence intended to intimidate the public or influence the...
Intimidated.
What is that? That's the statute that was written in the Bush administration the last time they revised the statute.
Why?
So he will be charged with attempted murder, and if anybody else is involved, conspiracy to commit murder. If convicted, the punishment is the same as if he had committed murder.
You get one free pass on blowing up, trying to blow up Times Square?
No, it's not a free pass. The penalty is still life in prison without parole. It's just a different charge that is imposed on him because the Congress decided, for better or for worse, you and I weren't in the Congress when they did this, that it has to be 2 or more acts of violence, and this was one.
What about attempted murder with a weapon of mass destruction?
Life in prison without parole. So that's why I said the punishment is the same. Conspiracy to do this, life in prison without parole.
And so one more time, back to the Miranda rights. You say that by definition, when he appears in court, it will have happened. There's no way for him to be arraigned.
And if it hasn't, the judge will say, do you understand the charges against you? The lawyer will say yes. Do you understand? And he'll tick off the 4 Miranda rights, and the lawyer will say, yes, he's already been told, or he hasn't been told. Thank you for telling us.
Why don't they put this off? Because we have that high-value interrogation unit.
Playing a game.
Why can't they put it off 24 hours in order to get at this guy?
Well, the statute requires, it's different in different parts of the country, but here in New York, 48 hours. But it also says as soon as is practical. For the reasons Glenn said, you don't cut somebody's constitutional rights out from under them, particularly an American, because you think that they're a danger. Right. They have the same rights whether you think they're dangerous or not.
I mean, the passion is to do whatever you can. But remember, you're now living in a time where we're starting to see peaceful grandmas and grandpas sitting in lawn chairs being called violent. Who's the next person you're going to be called violent? You make sure you follow the law, even when it's very uncomfortable and hard to do.
But see, no one has to tell you, Glenn, that we're at war. Even though it hasn't been declared war. Now we have 3 incidents in the last 4 months. If we don't get maximum intelligence out of these people, your friends and family and our friends and family are going to be
even fighting.
But I'm talking about
even recognizing.
Well, there's got to be
we're going to violate the Constitution, and they have to have an administration that is cozy with all of our enemies.
Eric, I will tell you this, and we're going to play some of Eric Holder's statement that he made in the 1 o'clock hour. He did refer to this guy as a terrorist, which is an important designation because we haven't heard a lot of that. All right, Glenn Beck will be watching at 5. See what you got cooked up, and Judge will be listening to you, Brian and the Judge, coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern Time on the radio.
All right.
Thank you, guys. I didn't realize there was this much room on the Kirby.
It's very spacious.
We should rent this out.
I think that's a fact thing.
Hey, all right, stick around, guys, because it's very interesting what we have coming up.